Hello, friends. Hello, friends. A tradition unlike any other.
Oh, my goodness. In your life, have you seen anything like that?
There it is! Adam Scott, a life changer. Mashed potato!
Here it comes.
The team at Cobra Golf are set to introduce additions to its collection of King putters, making the offerings available in a sleek black colourway, the perfect complement to the limited edition black LTDX drivers and King black wedges. The lineup of black putters includes both King 3D printed and King Vintage Series models, along with two new mallet styles, the King Cuda and Cuda 40. All King Collection putters come standard with the Cobra Super Stroke Traction Tour 2.0 grip and KBS Tour 120 shaft. The new additions to the King 3D printed and vintage series will be available from July this year. For more information on the entire King family of products, visit cobragolf.com. This is the 19th tee. Kieran Marsh, Nathan Drudy back in your ears for another week. Drudester, great to have your company as always. Off the very top, can I say, great response to the review of the American trip last week. So I'm glad that the people listening enjoyed it as much as we did recording it.
Yes, likewise. I mean, they didn't really have an option. You can not listen if you're really that way inclined. But no, there was some nice feedback, and yes, good to be back for another week. KM,
We've got
May 8 today.
Crazy.
The day that some people say that Australia Day should be changed to May 8, mate. Apparently,
Interesting.
read that before. Never really thought about that. So anyway, golf.
Well,
what do we got?
Anything would be better than the current setup, I would suggest. So May 8, I've heard Celia. Drudester, obviously, we promoted it last week. So this evening we do have your chat that you had with Tommy Power Horan, who of course came second behind Mika in the Australasian Order of Merit this year. So a great chat that you've done with Tommy Power Horan coming up, but worth touching on a few results from over the weekend around the globe, primarily for our Australians. First and foremost, we kind of mentioned at the back end of last week, we've got our first event on the Australian season, Drudes, inconspicuously in May.
Yes.
And it was the PNG Open, and Lockie Barker was a really comfortable winner in the end, a 4-stroke winner up to rounds of 67, 70, 70, and 67. It's his first win anywhere in 6 years and his maiden win on the PGA Tour of Australasia. So he pockets 32.5 grand. More importantly, gets off to a good start with 142.5 points on the Order of Merit. And given there will be a bit of a gap now until the next event, it's good to get on the board early and break the duck for Lockie Barker, Drews.
Yeah, no, very good to see. I mean, four really quality rounds there as well, as you mentioned, ran through them. They're nothing over par across those 4 rounds. I mean, I know there were a few players that did similar things, but the ability to go low and make birdies when it happened. I believe he went on a bit of a scoring blitz at one point. I think he was maybe 4 or 5 under through 3 holes or something like that. So certainly shows that he can go low, and he'll be very happy with the paycheck that's in his pocket, and I guess even happier as well to get off to a good start on the Order of Merit.
Obviously, difficult to give you a comprehensive review. We weren't fortunate enough to get a broadcast from Royal Port Moresby, but from what I did see, narrow and rather unforgiving. So it probably does speak to some of the scores. Like, we've got his pair of 67s that bookended his tournament aren't the lowest scores from across the weekend. I'm looking here, we've had a couple of 66s, a 65, but impressively, as you said, he strung 4 rounds together, whereas those that went low, I'm seeing a lot of 73s, a couple of 74s. So was asking questions, and not least of which the conditions as well. I saw a good friend of the show, Jimmy Emanuel, was over there covering it and popped up a couple of photos on his social media handles. Goodness me, Drudes, you could feel the humidity through the screen.
Yes.
It looked typically Papua New Guineans. So not only were you fighting the course, you're fighting the conditions over there as well. So all things considered, as I said, a great 4 days for Lockie Barker. I will note as well, I've been pleasantly surprised, just because I don't know too much about Lockie's story, to see the response from the broader Australian golfing playing fraternity, and that crosses the aisle, men and women, who I follow, getting right around him. So he's clearly a popular member of the tour as well. So a good weekend over in Port Moresby.
Yes.
Speaking of a good weekend, Drudes, I don't know if you caught much of it. I know we are huge fans on this here show of team golf.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, I take in any and every opportunity to consume what I can, because it is increasingly few and far between. The International Crown event on the LPGA Tour this weekend just gone. The Australian contingent of Hannah Green, Minjee Lee, Sarah Kemp, and Steph Kyriakou made their way all the way to the final, where they were unfortunately swept by the Thai team, who played unbelievable golf across the weekend. They knocked out the US in the semi-finals just to get through for the chance to play the Australians. The Jatanagan sisters, Paddy Tavitanakan and Atai Titakul, then went 3-0 over the Aussies in the final. So the final is not the story here for the Australian Druids, more the impressive form across the weekend. The Aussies knocked off a variety of teams, including the highly fancied Swedes. They knocked off the South Koreans on day one, which is incredible. And I think there's a couple of things there. There's Hannah Green continuing her good recent form, obviously a winner on the LPGA Tour in recent weeks. There's Minjee Lee probably rounding into a bit of form as we enter the women's major season proper. Kempy doing an outstanding job, more often than not in partnership with Minjee and the team component. For those who didn't watch, it was 2 singles matches and then a team football. But the one I want to make mention of, mostly because she's a good friend of this show, is Steph Kyriakou, who was outstanding. Played a lot of singles matches and stared down, with the greatest respect, a lot of players who have more experience and more runs on the board than she does. And, in combination with her teammates, guided Australia to a final. So a great weekend for the Australians, and a big pat on the back for Steph, who I thought played some exceptional golf over the course of the 4 days.
Yeah, as you said at the top, I probably didn't catch a great deal of this, but agree. Team golf is great, and we preach. We're probably preaching to the choir of people who listen to this show that agree with us. But yeah, a really, I don't know. I was thinking about this a little bit today, when obviously things didn't go our way in the final and whatever, but just to get there, I think, is a massive achievement in and of itself. And I don't want to downplay our team at all, but that, as you ran through there, some of the names that were in not only in the final, but in the third place playoff in the Swedish team had Sagstrom and Nordqvist, and the Americans, of course, we know how good they are. Lexi Thompson and Danielle Kang and Nelly Corder. Like, these are genuine world class players, and so for us to stand up and really, as you said before, stare them down and not only go toe to toe but defeat them, I think is massive for us. So comfortably, really proud of the 4 ladies who went around and kicked goals for us across the week, and I'm sure they'll be disappointed that they didn't get the job done. And obviously the Thai team is very, very strong. Got us a couple of times actually throughout the tournament, but nothing but proud of our Aussie girls.
Yeah, incredible. In fact, the only team they lost to over the course of the 4 days were the Thais, who beat them in the final. They lost to them in the round robin. So, as I said, knocking off the South Koreans, knocking off the Japanese, knocking off the Swedes. Like, it was some quality golf from the 4 Aussie women. And one to watch, as I said, a number of those players will continue on as the women's LPGA and more importantly, major season progresses. But as I said, for me, I think it's a huge confidence boost for someone like Steph, where she's at in her development, to go and not only be around, particularly Hannah and Minjee for those couple of days, but then to produce quality golf under pressure against some of the best in the world. I think that'll do her the world of good as she continues to march on and really start to carve out an impressive career overseas. Just sticking with the women's game, Drudes, Gabby Ruffles a name we've mentioned a fair bit. I wouldn't say excessively on this podcast, but we've certainly been keeping an eye on Gabby over in America, first through the college system. She was at the University of Southern California, I believe, at the Trojans there, where she played her college golf. And she's now applying her trade on the Epson Tour, which, for those familiar with the Grace Kim story, is how Grace Kim graduated from the Epson through to the LPGA. Well, Gabby Raffles is on the verge of doing exactly the same, Drudes, after securing her second Epson Tour victory over the weekend. We spoke about her first not all that long ago, and she's done it again at the Garden City Charity Classic in Kansas, and did it in convincing fashion. So let me run you through a few of the things she did at the Garden City Charity Classic. She equaled the 54-hole scoring record of the entire Epson Tour. She broke the 36-hole scoring record, and she also broke the course record.
Yeah.
So an incredible week with the stick for Gabby, and that's 2 wins now. She only requires 3 for the automatic elevation to the LPGA. She's taken home a little under 90 grand US for the year. So she's having an outstanding season, and as I said, sits 1 win away from graduating up to the best tour in the world for women. So big congratulations to Gabby, and a star that continues to rise, Drudes.
Yeah, she was a mile ahead, absolute mile ahead. Rounds of 62 in the first round. That'll just about win you anything, to be honest. And then 64 followed it up, and a 1 under 71 as well, just to get herself to 19 under. But really good to see her win again, and no doubt we'll see her on the LPGA very soon.
So just briefly then, in terms of other results for Aussies across the weekend, the PGA Tour was at Quail Hollow, as we flagged. Of course, the famous Quail Hollow, the Wells Fargo's there each and every year. Most recently, it's also had the President's Cup there. Wyndham Clark. Now, I would have thought you'd be almost leading the show with this one. An Oregon man gets his maiden PGA Tour victory for Wyndham Clark. Comfortably a 5-shot victor over Xander Schauffele. From an Australian perspective, Adam Scott had quite a good week, finishing in a tie for 5th, 9 strokes back. The only other Aussies to make the cut were Cam Davis and Harrison Endicott, and Jason Day had an uncharacteristically poor opening 2 days. That would be the first cut he's missed in some time, I would have thought, Drew. So, but just off the back of talking about Eugene, Oregon last week, Wyndham gets it done for the Ducks.
Gets the point. I've got the jumper on, so there you go. That helps. He was a really good college golfer, actually. Wyndham Clark actually started his career at Oklahoma State. We know there's such a prodigious producer of talent out there at the Cowboys, Ricky Fowler and Matthew Wolf and the like, going through there, along with many, many others, and then transferred to Oregon in 2016. And yeah, it was a really integral part of the Ducks team. I think they might have even won a national championship while he was there. So, great to see him get it done, and over a quality field as well. So, good to see Scotty T5 as well. I think that's always nice to see.
Just one to keep an eye on. I just want to call out Rory McIlroy. Now, we haven't spoken about Rory in some time. And obviously we flagged that he missed the elevated event a couple of weeks ago, straight after the Masters, which was his second of the year. We didn't hear much. Now, he came back this week. He fronted up early in the week, did his media, said that he'd called and spoken personally with Jay Monahan to, I suppose, expand on the reasons as to why he missed that tournament. All he was willing to share was that it was essentially mental health related and that he needed a refresh. And that's probably not entirely unexpected, not least of which for the disappointing exit at the Masters, but probably the culmination of the last 18 months in general. Comes back to a place where he's had remarkable success. I think he makes the cut almost on the number.
Yep.
And then limps out.
Yeah.
Limps out the back door. So I believe in his last couple of stroke play events, I think his last 3 stroke play events, including the Masters, he's missed 2 cuts.
You putting him on
And-
notice?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm putting him on notice because I wouldn't dream of putting arguably the greatest player of the modern generation on notice. Simply say that it's worth a watch
Okay.
because it hasn't necessarily been a case of take a week off, get
Sure.
refreshed, come back to a place that's been incredibly kind to him, where he's dominated in the past, and he finishes in a tie for 47th. So I just think it's worth keeping an eye on. Obviously, we go to Rochester, not this weekend, but the weekend after that for PGA Championship at Oak Hill. You're going to need to be long there, and you're going to need to be good with mid to long irons in your hand, two things that he is. So that sets up really well for him. But in his current headspace, I'm intrigued to see how that shapes in the next couple of weeks leading into the PGA Championship.
I'm not worried. I'm totally not worried about him at all.
Good.
I'm
glad.
I think he's too good, right? Like I think he'll just bounce back real quick. And you know what? I don't even know where we go this week, but wouldn't surprise me if he's up close to the leaderboards.
PPC Craig Ranch,
Oh,
the
shit.
AT&T Byron Nelson.
Yeah, I don't like this course. I don't like this course, but that's okay. That's a discussion for another time. So,
look, if Mika wasn't playing, I believe it's his first PGA Tour event.
It is.
I probably wouldn't be consuming much of the AT&T Byron Nelson.
Totally with you.
And then just on the DP World Tour briefly before we get to Tommy Power Horan, Adrian Marunk wins the Italian Open. This is significant for a few reasons. Significant because he, of course, is the winner of our Australian Open.
Mm-hmm.
He's making a habit of winning national opens, is Adrian Marunk. Significant also because the tournament was played at Marco Simone, which is, of course, the host of the upcoming Ryder Cup. If you didn't catch it, probably worth taking a look back if you are Ryder Cup inclined, because Luke Donald, the European captain, was there over the weekend and intimated a number of times through media appearances that the course won't change much, if at all, between what we saw on the weekend at the Italian Open through to the Ryder Cup later in the year. So if you're interested to see, I suppose, course setup wise, particularly conditions, I'd recommend taking a look back. It's an interesting spot, I would say, Marco Simone, and there is some incredibly penal rough.
Yeah,
would be also what I'd say. So that's no surprise. That's what the Europeans do to combat the Americans' distance. But yeah, fascinating, really. When you think about it, it'll be really, really interesting to see how Marco Simone sets up for the Ryder Cup. But Adrian Marunk, a winner at the Italian Open in terms of the Australian contingent, it was just one, Jason Scrivener, and he unfortunately missed the cut.
Yes, he did.
That's it, Drudes, in terms of results. Now, you did the chat, so I'm going to let you lead us into Tommy Power Horan. But for those who don't know much, and you're going to go deep into the story across the course of the next hour with him himself, but obviously finished second, as we said, to Mika in the order of merit. Relatively, and I say this, with greatest respect, relatively unheralded. He seems to go about his business pretty quietly, but in a very determined way, and quite a well-rounded player. So he's not necessarily making a splash, but incredibly consistent would be how I describe Tommy Power Horan. But give us a little bit of a synopsis before you throw to the man.
Well, yeah, it was a really good chat, obviously, first and foremost, but just kind of picked up the game quite not late, but later than what we've probably heard from guys and girls in our chats, and then sort of progressed through the ranks real quick and just loved practicing and managed to get through to some pennant squads and talks about playing a few different courses, and he's now a member of Royal Melbourne out there. So really interesting guy to chat to. Loves his golf. He's very excited by everything that the year is going to throw at him. Recorded this a couple of weeks ago, so if there are some old references in there, please forgive us. But yeah, a really good one, Marshy. So without any further ado, let's get stuck in with Tommy Power Horan. nice and early on a Wednesday morning, and I'm very pleased to be joined by a man who has had a phenomenal season and has great things ahead of him after said phenomenal season has given him many, many opportunities in the back half of 2023 and into 2024. I'm talking, of course, about Tom Power Horan. Tom, first and foremost, welcome to the 19th team, mate, and congrats on a wonderful season.
Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
You've just got off the plane from Vietnam a couple of days ago. We were just hoping that we'd all organise the right time zones and everything. So I imagine it's still been a bit of a whirlwind post the finishing of the Australian season anyway.
Yeah, it's been crazy. I've got a little bit of time off now to sort of reflect and look to what's going to happen in the future. But yeah, it's just been so crazy playing so many weeks in a row. It's finally sort of sinking in now that I've got a crazy year ahead.
Have you had that opportunity at all? Obviously, you've been on a plane to Vietnam. You've had a few hours there, and have you had that opportunity to kind of just reflect and go, shit, like this was a big year, in terms of what you actually achieved in terms of winning, in terms of playing well, in terms of finishing second on the order of merit, just everything that the year's thrown at you. I guess have you kind of thought about it all in its entirety yet?
Probably not really. Just the last yesterday and today, or this morning, just having a look at some of the things I need to plan ahead. It sort of makes you reflect, like, oh, this is the way it's going to go. Hopefully, like go to America and go to Europe later this year, and yeah, you sort of reflect on some of the results I've had. Whereas, the end of last year and so far this year, it's sort of playing almost every week. I didn't really have time. It was sort of okay, like let's get on to next week's how I'm playing and move forward with each week the results. But now it's nice to just actually look back and see what's happened.
You've got a lot ahead of you. We had Dave Micheluzzi on the show the other day and chatting to him about what his sort of schedule looks like and everything that comes with finishing inside the top three on the order of merit. So you've obviously got your DP World Tour card secured for next season. You're also exempt into the final stage of Q School on the Corn Ferry Tour. There's so much other stuff that's going to happen for you. Have you had any opportunity to sort of map out what the next, I guess, maybe short term 3 to 4 months might look like, and then even longer than that? Is it just a matter of playing as much golf on the DP World Tour as you possibly can?
For me, I got my Asian Tour card at the start of the season as well. So I've played there a little bit in between the Aussie events, which has been great. And we've got a little bit of a break now in Asia for the next 3 months or something. There's a couple of events in Korea, but I'm not going to get into them. So, I look to play the rest of the Asian season. And then, I have rough dates for Corn Ferry Q School. I mean, for me, Europe and Asia are amazing. America's sort of where I've always wanted to play.
Sure.
On the PGA Tour, and this year with the change of how things work, top 5 there get straight onto the main tour, which is super exciting. And to play Corn Ferry, they play for $1 million every week. Travel's pretty good. I don't mind the States, so there's plenty of opportunities. So it's really exciting because I've been a pro since 2016. I've had limited success would be probably a nice way of putting it. Limited opportunities. So yeah, that's the sort of, I might look to, I know Dave's going to get some invites in Europe. He's looking at that. I think he's playing Korea next week. So with that break in Australia and Asia, I maybe look to do, but not quite sure yet. Have to sort of have a deeper look into it.
How do you sum up your season here in Australia? Because I mean, you look at we're rattling off the stats to Dave Micheluzzi the other day, and they are impressive. There's no doubt for what Mika achieved, but yours, I mean, are equally as exciting to read through. I mean, the one that I always love rattling out that the PGA's got on their app there is total above or below par, and obviously Mika's way out in front, 162 under, but then you're 125 under par, which is not a bad way to reflect on the season. And that's, 30 something shots ahead of Digger Lawson as well. I mean, your world ranking went from, I'm looking here, I think it was about close to 1600. You're currently inside the top 600. You won the Nash event, which was phenomenal. Obviously, we'll get to that and the circumstances that all came about, including the ace. You won the Gippsland Super Six. You had a heap of other top tens, a great little stretch in New Zealand. Like it was a massive year for you, mate. And I know I'm pumping you up there, but it must feel nice when you kind of reflect on and think about some of those opportunities that happened throughout the year, and you just took them with both hands and went, shit, this was, it was a big year for me.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I mean, last season, finishing about this time last year in April, I just kept my card. I had four really nice tournaments with two top tens to just scrape inside the top 50, which I thought was really key to get me into those bigger events, guaranteed into Oz Open and Oz PGA, and avoid the re rank and these things. So, I'd worked really hard. I put in a lot of effort in the off season and during the season as well. And I worked with a new instructor with Brad Hughes, and I'd played quite well in some pro-ams, and I was looking forward to the season because I felt like my long game was really in good shape, and I was spending a bit more time short game and putting. So I've been playing well, but I mean, if you said to me how I was going to go, I probably wouldn't believe you. I mean, to win Gippsland again was amazing. And I finished 12th at Oz PGA, which was my best week in a huge event like that. Cam Smith playing, and I was inside the top 10 with a couple holes to go, and made a bit of a meal of it down 17, 18. But I sort of started to feel a bit more comfortable. I think I'd struggled for a few years with the longer game, and have a bit of scar tissue there. Had a bit of scar tissue there, and then sort of just as the weeks went, the season started, had a few like solid top 30s without putting well and this and that, and then it's sort of 12. I remember I finished 12th at Oz PGA and saying to one of my friends like, "Oh, I might not actually have to go back to Q school this year. That'd be nice." And then won Gippsland, and then had a couple of weeks off, and then this year getting my Asian tour card and then playing so well in Australia to continue. It's just been so surreal, to be honest. I haven't really had much time to reflect, but looking back, I'm just happy to get a top 10 here or there. But I think I finished the season with 6 in a row. It's just madness for me.
You going back to the end of last season, as you touched on there, to finish the year, you finish inside the top 10 in the NT, and also over here at the WA PGA and T17 at the WA Open. So you've got a little bit of momentum after a couple of miscuts at the New South Wales Open. So you're finishing the season with a bit of momentum. Obviously, you mentioned that obviously you keep your status and all that sort of stuff. And does that kind of help make the transition into the new season a little bit easier, given that you are finishing with some nice results? Or was it kind of like, okay, cool, that's the end of that season, complete new focus? Am I setting completely new goals? Like, how does the back end of one season roll into another, or is it just, do you separate it completely in your mind?
I think it's more just roll on. I mean, with just golf in general, like you sort of play all the time. Like even though the season for me in Australia finished in April, I went to mining towns, pro-ams in Queensland, 2-3 weeks later, and was there for 3 weeks, played Rockhampton Pro-Am, and then play a few pro-ams in Victoria. I was always looking to keep playing and keep improving and make some money, obviously, to pay for it all. So it's sort of, I wouldn't say it's like a stop-start thing. It's like I always, I remember a guy I remember at the golf club said to me a while ago, one eye on the present, one eye on the future. And that's the way it is. Like, you don't really get like a month off. It's not like the AFL season where it just stops and you get a preseason. It's always, you got to be kind of ready to go, like I've got a few months off now. I haven't got anything scheduled, but if I did get an invite into a tournament next week, in 2 weeks, like I feel ready to go, a little bit here and there, but you got to kind of stay ready, but then stay focused on improving. And I'll have a little bit of time to look at sort of like, these are the areas that I want to improve, and this is the areas I did well. And sort of work towards those. But it's sort of, you always got to be ready.
We asked Mika what his favourite moment of the year was. Obviously, winning 3 times is quite impressive, but his answer was actually that he flushed a 3-wood at the National, which rolled up to, I don't know, 10 feet or something. Anyway, that was his favourite moment of the year. So my question to you is, what is your favourite moment of the year? Obviously, having won 2 events, one of which included a pretty handy hole in one at a critical point, at a critical point in the juncture, a heap of other top 10s. What was your top moment of the year?
I mean, it's hard to go past the hole in one, to be honest.
Just walk us
I
through it
think,
then. Walk us through it in its entirety then.
yeah, well, I'd just come off a bogey on the previous, which I didn't think I hit too bad a shot. I kind of misjudged it a little bit. I got off to a really good start that last round
Mm.
with John Lyris, who's been playing amazing golf, and he shoots such low scores when he plays well, and we both started really well, and then yeah, I think I was up maybe one shot, and yeah, it was 145, slightly down off the lefts. Yeah, it was just a perfect, just like good nine iron. I said to my caddy, do you think the nine or the wedge? Because I thought I could get a wedge there if I hit it a bit harder, and he said, no, I think it's just a good nine. I said, yeah, I like that. So yeah, I just hit it, and it was the same club I hit into the par five, hit in the trees left. So yeah, it just came off great, and you couldn't see it. The pin was kind of tucked behind a bunker, and there's a few people at the green, and Mum was about 20 feet away from the hole when it rolled in. So yeah, that was crazy. I mean, just so surreal. I'm so focused on, like, hitting good shots and play the whole round. It's, yeah, every shot counts. But yeah, it was just kind of afterwards when people were like, oh, hole, and I was like, wow, yeah, it's pretty crazy, to be honest.
What was Mum's reaction?
Oh, she was pretty thrilled. I think that was probably the first one she's seen live.
Oh,
So
really?
I gave her the ball after, and she's got all the balls at home, and I'll get something made up. So yeah, she was like, she's not a golfer, so it's all kind of crazy to her, I think, at times.
I cut you off on your answer to the favorite moment of the year. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add around the ace?
Um, I mean, it's been so great. I mean, I've had such a great season, to be honest. Obviously winning twice. I thought at the start of the year, I sort of thought, like, I've been playing really well, and it wouldn't surprise me if I got near winning, and sort of win twice is incredible. Yeah, Gippsland winning again was crazy, and the finish there, in all the matches, but in the final match, like, I had five in the six holes, had five birdies and a bogey. Holding like an 80 footer on the second last hole to take the lead, and then holding a 30 footer on the last. That was pretty special as well. And my mum and my girlfriend and my dad and my sister were there, and that was really nice as well. So maybe, I mean, it's hard to pick them. They've all been pretty amazing, to be honest. I take one. Not to have a few is pretty special.
It's been a good year. It's been a good year, put it that
Been a
way.
very good. Yeah.
Um, you've played, as you mentioned before, you've obviously got your Asian tour card, and you've kind of hopped back and forth a little bit between Australia and Asia this year. You played Vietnam most recently, Hong Kong, Thailand as well. I guess, what are the sort of key differences between golf here in Australia on our tour, and I suppose on the Asian tour? Are you having to adapt your game drastically between the two tours? Because obviously, when we talk about you go to Europe, it's a completely sort of different
Mm.
style of golf in certain ways. But are you kind of having to adapt your game differently between here and Asia?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, tee to green, it's pretty similar. It's not too bad. It's a little bit, maybe the wind doesn't push the ball around as much. It's a hotter climate as well, so the ball goes a bit further. But for me, the biggest challenge so far has just been the grain on the greens. The hotter climates, more like Queensland, which I've played there a bit, but Thailand, there was a lot of grain, and the greens were really quick. And then Hong Kong, they were still grainy. They weren't too bad, but like Vietnam, just last week, greens were quite slow and into the grain, up the hill. Like, it's difficult. And then I've changed my lob wedge grind, a little bit more bounce than, say, sandbelt. It's very firm around the greens. Um, so that's been the biggest challenge so far, for sure. I definitely need to practice sort of just, landing chip shots into the grain. It really doesn't go anywhere. And then down grain, they really rock it, which is, yeah, it's been it's been a challenge. I've sort of struggled a little bit, to be honest, at times, because I feel like I've hit the ball pretty well over there. Um, but yeah, it's been great to have new challenges.
Gippsland Super Six. Now you've got a bit of a stranglehold on this tournament at the minute. Two wins, obviously first 2019, and then obviously this season as well. I mean, it's for outsiders looking in, the format can be a little bit confusing at times to try and wrap your head around exactly
Yeah.
who's playing who, and there's cuts and whatever. But I mean, what is it about the short form that must really suit your game in some aspect, because you've got 2 trophies sitting in the cabinet now?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it was crazy. Like, it's definitely a different format. The first year I won, it was just stroke play though, because it rained so much. So it just
Right.
ended up being a 3-round stroke play. Um, but this year, yeah, I mean, I played well the stroke play again through the 3 rounds. I think I was tied for the lead maybe with Hayden Barron and Hayden Hopewell, I think maybe. And then yeah, get to skip the first round match because of my placing, and then yeah, I played really solid. I just didn't make too many mistakes. It's a little quirky, that golf course that we played at Warragul Golf Club, and just putted well that week, and seemed to hold the key putts at the right times and hit the right shots. In the final, hit a few crazy shots and hold some nice putts, which was a little bit unexpected because the first 3 matches I think I played pretty solid, not too many bad shots. But yeah, it's been crazy. I don't know what it is. Eel Lawn and then Warragul, not too far away. Yeah, I don't know. I grew up sort of sandbelt golf courses, so I guess they're similar, but not that similar, I guess.
Just works for you. The format works for
Yeah,
you.
I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely will. We'll round out sort of the first sort of part before we get into your broader golfing career by asking you, what do you have any expectations for the next 12 months? Obviously, you haven't really planned it out in its entirety. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of written down on paper, and here's all the opportunities. Do you have any expectations or thoughts on sort of what you want to achieve in the next 12 months?
Um, Not really. I haven't really written anything down. I haven't thought about too much because it's been, like I was very much, until the season in Australia finishes, like, I'm not expecting to have, a European card or finish top 5. I was, play every event out. Didn't try not to let myself think too much. Obviously, going into the national, I'd had that European card sewn up, which was great, and the top 5 finish. So I'm not sure expectations. I try not to put too many expectations on like performances and outcomes. I try to sort of, just all the sort of boring psychologist talk of like try your best and all that stuff. But yeah, like I've worked really hard for a number of years, and particularly the last couple, and I expect to do the same. And I view, getting my card is great. It's really exciting, but I want to be on the tour and stay on the tour, and not just have a one and done year. So I'm pretty focused on yeah, like keeping my card, and I think winning twice in Australia, and I've won a few other times in smaller tournaments as well. But I think it's been great to be able to win, and you can make winning a bit of a habit, and to hit some really great shots under the pump down the line, down the stretch, which has been great to like it shows I can probably do it. Or I hope so anyway, overseas and on bigger tours. And I'm looking at top 5 and on the Corn Ferry. Q School would be amazing. I'm not expecting that, but yeah, I'm not sure the expectations. I just want to keep working hard and try and improve my attitude, and just try to get better, I guess.
Let's go back to the very start then. Where did it all begin for Tom Power Horan? Where did the love of golf? What's your sort of first memories of the game? How did it all come about?
Well, first started with like at the very beginning, and at primary school. I used to have to go to like after school care. Parents are working, so I'd say it was probably like grade 4 or something. I don't know, probably like 11, 10. And then they had like a golf program you could do a little bit, and it was just plastic balls, plastic clubs, and sort of just whacking away. Did that a little bit, and then they said if you want to come and hit some real golf balls, come down to Brighton Golf Course, or Brighton Public Golf Course, and do a clinic on a Sunday. And yeah, Mum took me down. I think I was about 11. It was like $10. Hit balls for like an hour on a Sunday, and yeah, went down and met a guy, Jason Louis, who's still in the industry. He was my first sort of golf coach. Started seeing him for private lessons after a little bit, and I'm still great friends with Jason. And he worked at he's still working in the industry, doing little things here. I think he's with FlightScope now. Still great friends. And that was how it started. And then played a little bit at Brighton, got my handicap there, and then I joined Cheltenham when I was probably 15. I was probably 14, 15 until I started like practicing properly. Before it was kind of like a bit of a hobby. And then, yeah, sort of, I'd say 14, I joined Cheltenham and I started practicing after school and taking it a bit more seriously.
So obviously there's a bit of a love of the game happens then from picking up those plastic clubs at the out of school care to joining Cheltenham, right? Like there's in that you're talking only 4 or 5 years, so you must have enjoyed some aspect of the game and shown, I guess, some level of ability to do it, because I mean you wouldn't persist for 4 or 5 years if you were missing the ball every time, right? So was there some aspect of the game that jumped out to you that you thought this is really cool in terms of the challenge, in terms of just watching balls fly or whatever?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the challenge is amazing because it's so different all the time. And I sort of, yeah, I don't know. I seem to be drawn to sometimes like those quirky things that are hard to figure out. I used to play a lot of soccer when I was young,
Okay.
and I did sort of like the individual nature of the game. You know, you don't have to worry about anyone else, and when it goes wrong, it's just your problem and it's your fault, and that's it. You know, you don't have to worry about letting anyone else down. It's just you. You know, I was playing soccer at a reasonably high level towards the end when I was 14, 15, and it was getting very serious. And you know, I just felt I didn't want to let others down. Whereas golf was the opposite. You know, it was just me, and I didn't have to worry about anyone else, which was nice. And that was sort of the big one. I don't know, I could just do whatever I wanted. I didn't have to worry about a coach. I could just go practice. You know, I'd just go down. I'd ride my bike to the train station, couple train after school, and couple train stops, and go to Cheltenham Golf Course. Just walk across the street. I had a family friend living across the road, and just take my clubs across and just play holes. There was no driving range. There's a putting green, a chipping green, but I just go play on the course and just have a bunch of balls in my bag and just sort of stuff around. And there wasn't a lot of structure or anything like that. There was a few things I was, you know, might see my coach and a few little things to work on or whatever, but it was just play, and I just really enjoyed that nature of it.
Describe your soccer career.
I mean, I was okay.
What
I
position were
don't
you playing?
know.
Where were you playing? What position?
I moved all around. I sort of started as a forward, and then I played midfield at school, and then I moved to like a better club when I was the last few years, like a quite a high level club, and I was playing like left back, so it wasn't
Okay.
that great. But
No, left
I don't
back's an
know.
important spot. It's a very important spot, left
Uh,
back.
yeah, I'm not so sure about that, but it was good. It was good. It was very very competitive at the end, which was good and bad. And I think just I was probably a little bit shy as a kid, and not as confident as a lot of the other guys. Like they're all great guys that I played with, all great kids, but I wasn't super confident. That kind of you know wasn't for me. Maybe looking back now would be a bit different how I'd view it, but at the time it was almost a bit terrifying at times. It's very serious.
I've only played very sort of minor level soccer, and yeah, it is a difficult sport to pick up if you like. I've played footy all my life, right? And then you try and
Yeah,
pick up soccer, and it's a very difficult game to try
yeah,
to try and
yeah.
pick up. So obviously, you know, you sort of start getting into Cheltenham. You're playing perhaps maybe a little bit more and taking it a little more seriously. You're starting to play on the weekends. I don't know what's sort of that next sort of phase of your golfing career. Then obviously noting that you've got school and stuff happening all in the background as well. So you know, I read before that you were captaining the pennant side at the age of 16. So there was obviously quite a rapid improvement in your game over since joining the club.
Yeah, I don't know. I just love to practice. I guess I loved going down. I used to go like every day after school, pretty much. Yeah, my family friend across the street, he always used to have like chocolate and soft drink there. So I don't know if it was like a bribe, but I loved it. Yeah, I used to just go down every day. And then there was a few other guys like Darcy Burden, who's on the tour now, Brad Kivermitz, who's playing on the tour that joined, and sort of there was a bit of a group of us. And yeah, I just loved practicing. And I sort of didn't. I got my handicap at Brighton. I was like 27, and I joined Cheltenham because you could just pay a membership and play as much as you want. Whereas public at Brighton, you had to pay every time. And I didn't really know anyone at the club, and I never really played any comps, and I was practicing a lot. And then I never wanted to join the comps to get my handicap down, and Dad was sort of like, you should enter the comp and everything, and so I started playing comps. I think the first round I had like 52 Stableford points or something because I practiced for like a year or something and never played. So yeah, and then I just played a lot of comps and then played junior pennant. My parents don't play golf. Never been a member of a club or anything, so didn't really know how the system worked that well. And then yeah, a member of the golf club was like, "Oh, you should come play junior pennant," and sort of did that. And then saw some other kids and met some people and started playing some of the junior events, and it sort of got the ball rolling that way. I was probably a little bit late, but yeah, I just love like once like a lot of people, once you start playing and get that bug, like you just can't stop really.
So, what age are you thinking? Okay, I'm pretty good at this, I guess. Does someone tell you how you like you could make a career out of this, or and then when are you thinking internally, going shit, like maybe this is what I can do for a living?
I think I won Vic Junior Masters in
Hmm.
like when I was like 16, 2010, which was it was a pretty big junior tournament back then.
Mm.
They had like lots of good winners. Like I don't know if Scott won it or he came second. Adam Scott a bunch of times. Like Badley, all these guys. Cam Smith won it the year after I won it. 'Cause I was trying to go back to back and I was going all right, and then he had like 7 under and towed me up, unfortunately. But um, yeah, that was a big one. Probably personally, just for a bit of confidence. Like I thought it was all right, but to win a big tournament, a big junior tournament, I was like, oh wow, I made the state team and everything. And then I sort of kept plugging away. I played well in the amateur tournaments, and I went to university after I finished high school. I was a decent player when I finished high school, but I wasn't. Like you see some kids now that finish high school, they're amazing. Like I played with a guy on the Asian tour a couple of weeks ago, Hong Kong. He's like 17 or something, and he 18, and he won 3 times the AET and got his card, and he's just like incredible player. I couldn't believe he was like 18 or something. Like, it makes no sense. But I was all right. But I went to university here, and then kept playing and made the state team a few times, and but I always kind of played down the bottom of the team, and it was all right, but I was sort of studying at the same time. But I sort of went to Q school in 2015, start 2016, and it was sort of like we'll see how it goes. And I got my card there. I had a really great last round. I think I had 5 or 6 under last round and came ninth. And that was probably the moment I thought, oh, maybe this will be a job. Like until then, I sort of, I was playing all right, but I don't know. I never really knew how good everyone was and how good I was, and until you sort of first see it there. And that was probably the first time I thought maybe it was always a dream to be a pro and to get my card, but once I actually did in the last round, I was like, okay, wow, like that was really nice. Let's do this.
Any thoughts on heading to the US for college or anything like that? Was that ever an option for you? Did you get offers? Because obviously the path to golf now is there's so many different ways that you can go about it. Q school and just working your way through the ranks, going to college. There's a million different ways that you can go about getting to the professional ranks. Was college ever an option? Because it's certainly become more prevalent in the last 5 to 10 years, anyway.
Yeah, I it was definitely an option. I probably just didn't pursue it. I didn't really know enough about it. In hindsight, I definitely would have loved to have maybe pursued it a little bit more. I mean, I went to college. I went to university here. Went to college
Mm.
here, and it's difficult studying here and playing golf because it's not sort of uniform in the approach. Where you're practicing with the team and all these, and there's lots of benefits of college. Whereas here, it's kind of quite isolating at times because not many of the good amateur golfers study here. They either go across to the US or they just don't study. And then when I'm studying, no one else is playing golf, so that was quite challenging, but it was good. I learned a lot, and it's good to have a degree and all that stuff. But I definitely would have liked to have maybe pursued college a little bit more. I tell when I speak to some of the younger kids at the golf club and people I bump into, like it's definitely something that you can do, especially if you get a scholarship and it's all
Mm.
free. And it's such a beneficial pathway, to get to the States, to get to where all the great players are. I mean, definitely is something I would highly recommend looking at and pursuing. But for me, yeah, I just didn't really know enough at the time. I'm happy with the decision I've made, but in hindsight, probably should have looked a little bit harder.
What were you studying, and how did you go with balancing your golf and study and all that sort of stuff at the time at uni?
Yeah, I did a science degree at Monash in physiology, majored in
Okay.
physiology. I mean, it sounds smart, but I was a rubbish student. I didn't really spend a lot of time at university, and I didn't go to the lectures, or I just wanted to get it. My mum said before, sort of when I finished high school, you should do a traineeship or do a university degree or something other than golf, other than playing, just to have something. So at the time, I thought that was a good idea. And I wasn't a great student in high school. I didn't really. They always sort of said like he's got some ability, but probably needs to apply himself a little bit more, which was pretty spot on at college as well for me. Yeah, I'm not sure some of the subjects I passed, but I did pass, and I do have my degree, so it was
Beautiful.
good. The balance was a little bit tricky, as I mentioned before, just with, yeah, just at university, like no one plays golf, and then at golf, no one really studies. So, and every semester I'd be away a week or two traveling, and you miss classes and that, and then in the middle of the year, everyone goes to the UK and the US to play golf tournaments, and you're here studying, and the cold weather's a bit colder, but it's good. I mean, it teaches you a lot of discipline and these things which I've taken and moved forward with.
So where to next? Obviously, you're playing pennants. You're doing pretty well in terms of the amateur ranks. I think I read before online you might have cracked the world amateur top 100 rank. I think you might have
I think
snuck
so.
into the top 100 there. So where does your career go from next? And then maybe talk us through the decision to turn pro, who you consulting, all that sort of stuff. How does that all come about?
Yeah, what was it? I was just playing pennant for Cheltenham, and then just studying probably at the time university. Like I played Cheltenham pennant for, I don't know, probably till 2009 to 2013, something like
Right.
that. A number of years, and we went up in every division. Went from like the bottom division to Division One, and then I moved over to Royal Melbourne, where I joined a few years before, and played 2 years of pennant there. And I was playing one for Cheltenham, and I played one for Royal, and um, yeah, I was playing pretty well. And then soon, basically, I was just wanted to finish the degree. I felt like I kept improving. I was still like things to work on, and kind of change coach a little bit here and there, and I was still practicing. Like I was at uni, but my focus was golf. Like I really, I tried to practice as much as I could, and I practiced a lot, and was working, part-time job and all that, and play all the tournaments, play all the sort of Aussie amateur schedule. I just didn't get to really play the US and the UK, which all the better players played. Um, yeah, the world ranking stuff, I didn't really pay too much attention to it. I did get top 100, which I guess is a nice achievement. I had
Mm.
no idea what that really meant at the time. I think on this there was like a separate ranking on the scratch players. I think I got even higher, which was
Okay.
seemed a little bit crazy to me. But then yeah, as soon as I finished university, that was when this is the first year at tour school. I just went as an amateur. I was like, if I get my card, great. I'll turn pro, and if not, then I'll go and do the US and the UK and those trips, and not have to worry about the study. So that was sort of the pathway for me.
So I guess in terms of who are you consulting around the decision to go, yep, this is it. We're going to turn pro. Is it mum and dad? Is it coaches? Is it people around the club? Like, is it none of them? Is it more an internal decision?
Um, I guess I would have spoken to some people. Like I've never, I didn't get VIS or anything, so I never really had a ton of people advising me what to do. Like, like a little bit here and there. Um, and like my golf coach at the time probably would have been, but I feel like it was a pretty sort of natural progression. I'd played in the state team 3 times. I'd done well in a bunch of tournaments in the amateur events. Like you play like Vic Amateur for like the 8th time, and you're like, it's probably time to do something else. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
It's obviously great to play, but you kind of like, what's the next level? And playing the state team, you get a taste of what pro golf is like with the Vic Open, and you see that there's another level out there, which is cool to see. You only get a little glance at it. It's a different world because you sort of go. I mean, there's some great players playing in the amateur game, but generally every tournament there's only sort of like 10, 20 guys that can win, and the cuts are pretty high. Whereas pro golf, so many guys can win, and the cuts, you got to play well. So that was the sort of thing. Like, I played state team 3 times. I'd seen a bunch of guys that I'd played with turn pro and have some success, and so I thought, yeah, once I finish my degree, and why not have a go, and then if not, I can have a full year of amateur golf playing everything. But I got my card the first year, which was great.
You mentioned Royal Melbourne before. Now, every time someone mentions Royal Melbourne, we always got to ask the question, right? Because it's just this fascinating place. I'm very fortunate that I got to go to the President's Cup there in 2019. And obviously, seeing it there compared to what I'm sure it's like on a daily basis is two very different things when it's set up for a tournament as opposed to just you getting to enjoy it. But can you try and describe that place to us? Because it's just, I think even going there and kind of just walking around the grounds, you could see like all the stuff that everyone talks about in terms of how brilliantly the holes are laid out. You can see the strategy that you need to apply to them. You kind of just get the aura of the whole place. It was all true, right? And like, I don't think that's kind of trying to oversell Royal Melbourne in and of itself. But can you try and describe it as someone who, has got to play it as regularly as you have?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously an amazing place. I'm very fortunate that I've been a member there, a number of years, probably 10, 12 years now. And playing there all the time, it sort of becomes like a very privileged position, but it comes sort of normal.
Sure.
And that some of that mystique and allure sort of fades away because you play that, I've just played so many rounds, spent so much time of my life there. But you still notice just the land, I think, the way the slope is, the way the holes are built around the land is just amazing. I think, if you say compared it to Kingston Heath, which is another amazing golf course, it's very flat, Kingston Heath. They have a big hill on 15 and 16, but the rest of the course the land is just very flat, whereas Royal Melbourne is quite the opposite. It's just, especially with the composite course, the tee shot on, say, 4 West, that goes up the hill and down around to the left, like a down around to the right, a big drop off. And it's so unique. And then the way they've sort of built the holes into the land, just an incredible job. And then, yeah, just the whole place is so special. Definitely goes up a gear when you see the President's Cup and the grandstands. It sort of fits in really well. Yeah, it's a special place. I mean, it's always in great condition. The club does a great job with that. Very, very fortunate to be a member there. It's just such a different test of golf, I think, as well, with how firm the greens play generally all year round. With the fescue, it's sort of a bit more like a link style bounce. It's quite a unique challenge, which is just, yeah, it's amazing to play.
What's the standard of golf like there? Because I've always been fascinated. Like, I just assume that everyone's a gun golfer. They're like, there's no one like me getting around, with a handicap of like 25, right? I'm just assuming that everyone's in single digits.
No, there's still some high handicappers for sure. There is a lot of good players. I think the thing with Royal Melbourne, that maybe people don't, or maybe misjudge, is that, it's obviously an amazing club, and it's a prestigious place to be a member at, but people just love golf, and they just love golf there. And, I just pull my name down the timesheet and I just play golf with, he might be, a really, successful businessman or whatever, but they just love golf. They just don't care that, like, you don't really, they just love it. And everyone's just a golf nerd. And that's a thing. It's not I feel like people think it's a stuffy place, but it's not. It's just people love golf. They're watching the result. They're talking about, just the same stuff anyone else. They watch the PGA Tour, and this tip is going to help them fix their game, and it's just it's an obsession like the rest of us.
What's generally the reaction, right? You put your name down on the tee sheet and you roll out there and meet everyone. then you start maybe a couple of holes in. Oh, what do you do for work? What do you do for work? And then it gets to you, and it's yeah, I'm a professional golfer. Actually, like I play on the Australia Tour. I guess most people might know you around the club anyway. But what's generally the reaction? Do they go, "Geez, this bloke better play well today"? Then
Yeah, well, it's been a little bit different now that I've played a little bit better. It was kind
yeah,
of the last before this year, it was kind of like, oh yeah, playing the tour, and they're like, oh, like how oh, is that any good? And whereas this year, obviously, played a bit better, and maybe you can do it for a living. But prior to that, it was a little bit like, oh, are you looking at doing anything else, sort of thing, with the lack of success. But no, it's been good. I mean, yeah, at the club, obviously, I haven't been around there as much lately, but I spend a lot of time there. Most of them know who I am. But yeah, you do get the occasional. Well, a lot of time they know who I am. They get so nervous, and I said it's I'm just another person.
yeah.
I just play golf all the time, and I'm a little bit better. But a lot of guys they get so nervous. I'm like, don't worry.
All right, that's all the serious fun stuff. Well, not the serious stuff. Instagram is generally our great source of research that we go on. Now,
Yeah.
you're pretty clean cut on Instagram. You haven't posted a great deal for someone
I should.
someone of our age. But I was just scrolling back here recently, one of your more recent posts, while you're in Hong Kong, had the opportunity to meet Henrik Stenson, sorry. And is that your McLaren as well that you were driving around there?
Yeah, well, I just had it for the week. No, definitely not my McLaren.
I
We're
was
just
gonna say,
taking the.
because the parking is fucking deplorable.
Yeah, I think when you have a McLaren, you don't really need to care that much. So you just park it wherever you want. It was a Hong Kong Golf Club there. They got a lot of money. I think.
Okay.
I think it was a very expensive joining fee, maybe like 2 million US or something. And that car park was like it was like a supercar gallery. Like, amazing, amazing place.
What's Henrik Stenson like?
I mean, I just met him in the locker room very quickly. I almost got paired with him in the third round. I missed. We were on the
Really?
same score. Yeah, we're on the same score, and he was the group after me. But he was great. I mean, it was a funny day because we on the Saturday it rained so much, play got suspended, and we had one hole to go, and he was a group behind, and then they end up cancelling the fourth round, so we just had to come back on the Sunday and play one hole. And I said to him, oh, Bubba, we almost finished. And Poulter, he was traveling with Poulter because they both played, and they're both in the same live
Yes.
team, the Cliques or something like that. And they had an event in maybe Miami the next week, and he was annoyed because because they would have been, if he finished the one hole, he would have been off to Miami I presume on the private jet straight after. So, but he was one of my favorite golfers growing up. I mean, I used to love watching his golf swinging and his ball striking and his temperament and everything. And yeah, I mean, I had to get a quick photo.
Yeah.
He's the man. He was really nice guy.
What about away from the course? What's Tom Power Horan like away from the course? What do you get into aside from golf? Or are you just a complete golf nuffy and that's all you do?
I'd like to say I've got a lot of hobbies, but at the moment, I mean, it's been so busy. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I like go-karting and stuff like that, but I
All right.
mean,
That's cool.
I've just been. I don't do it enough though. I'm not that great either. But yeah, I mean, I just love golf too much. Unfortunately, I just always practicing. I sort of went away for the game. I had about a year off playing in the middle of my
Okay.
career, in my pro career, so I had a bit of a love hate relationship with the game at times, but sort of rededicated myself, and I just love going practicing and trying to get better.
So you like motorsports in general or just go-karts?
Just I like driving. Yeah,
Yeah.
driving. There's a go. I practice at Spring Valley.
Okay.
Do a lot of my practice at Spring Valley now, and at golf course, and there's a go kart track right next to it, and you can just hear the go karts all day. Like I'm like, oh, if I make some money, I might buy a go kart in the morning and practice in the afternoon.
That does sound like fun. Go-karting is actually genuinely so much fun. Like
Mm.
I can see how these like Formula One drivers, as a kid, got taken when they were like 4 years old to go karting, and they just loved it, and then pestered their parents to go forever, and then just went through the ranks. I can easily see how that happens.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of fun. Two quick ones to finish. What's the best golf course you've played?
I mean, hard to go past Royal Melbourne, obviously. I think the composite course is amazing. I mean, the East and West are amazing, but I think that composite's, another level. But, I'm a little bit biased there, so I'll pick somewhere else. I really enjoyed playing Lahinch in Ireland. That was probably, I played there a number of years ago, and that was really a little bit quirky, but I had a really great time. It was nice weather. So outside of Royal Melbourne, probably Lahinch.
Well, you've just opened up another can of worms because that's my favorite course in the world, Lahinch. Like it just fascinates me. I've never played it, and it just fascinates me so much.
Yeah.
Like obviously you got that amazing par 3, you got the Dell, like all these just quirky things that if you built a golf course that look like Lahinch these days, people would call you insane, right? But it's it looks phenomenal. So, I asked you your favorite golf course. What did I ask you? The best golf course or your favorite golf course? Which one did I ask you?
I think favorite.
What's the best golf course that you've played then? Other way, or one of the other way around. I can't even remember what I asked you.
I'm trying to think. The best course I played. I don't know. It's hard ranking these courses. It's kind of like artwork or something. It's very, I think
subjective. Yeah.
I'll give some props to Victoria Golf Course for Oz Open this year. That was just amazing. I mean, the condition of the course. I'm sure a number of years ago they redid the course and the greens in particular, and it was just amazing. I played there a lot. I grew up at Cheltenham. Victoria is literally next door, and played there a lot over the years, and the course was always good, but the greens sort of maybe year on year round like let it down a little bit, if I'm being harsh, compared to the really top courses. And I think obviously that's what they addressed and identified and made a few changes and brought in the new pure distinction greens. I mean, that was amazing. I mean, all the players that week, I'm sure they say the same thing. Like probably the best greens I putted on. Royal Melbourne's greens are amazing as well. PK with the pure distinction, but that tournament, the condition was just unbelievable. How good it was. I presume that's what it'll be like to play, Augusta or President's Cup.
Well, you got a massive year ahead of you, mate. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch from afar. Look forward to seeing whatever your calendar kind of throws at you. I'm sure you've got many, many different ways that you can skin the proverbial.
Hello, friends. Hello, friends.
So yeah, mate, really pumped for you. You thoroughly deserve everything that's come your way. I love your story as well. I love that you got into golf a little bit later, picking up plastic cups that are out of school care. And then you've just gone on and you've made every shot a winner, as we say, mate. So best of luck for the remainder of 23 and whatever 24 throws at you. And thanks again for joining us on the 19th tee.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.